Welcome back, everyone. Today I have a great interview for you guys. We brought in Brittany Chibe today. Brittany is a three-time founder, and we discussed topics like being a business owner, what does it look like as a founder, raising capital, and so much more. Enjoy. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm here with special guest Brittany Chibe, and we are here to discuss kind of background, kind of what goes into being a founder, as Brittany has been successful as a three-time founder with multiple businesses, and we're just really excited to jump into the background and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to just start with kind of what goes into being a founder and where does that start as you're growing up in your career and growing? What makes you want to be a founder and a business owner?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's almost like an internal, I don't know, desire or want to do something on your own. My first sort of experience as maybe not a founder, but like a business owner was in college. So down at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, my freshman year, I was sitting in a chemistry class and somebody walked into the class to pitch this summer internship called College Works Painting.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of
Yep.
it or if
Yep.
it's still a thing, because this was in like 2004. But they came in and they talked about like building a business throughout the summer and like all the money that they made, and then like the trip to Cancun they went on at the end of the summer to celebrate. And I'm like,
Really
well, that
incentivized
sounds
you.
like fun. So I went through like their interview process and became a branch manager. And so basically what that meant was that like I was given this territory that I could go and just like give people quotes and book painting projects to then produce that summer. So literally like the second semester of my freshman year, every weekend I was driving back to the southwest suburbs of Chicago, specifically Orland Park, and literally just going door to door, knocking on people's houses and just asking like, could I give them a quote to paint their house? And so throughout that sort of like winter, spring, I booked around like $50,000 of like painting jobs. And then in the summer when that came around, I had to produce all of them. So I like hired friends that were painting and it was really bad because they had no experience painting. But you just figure your way out through it and like buying the ladders and the sprayers and like all the things. And so it was cool because it was like the sales part and then it transitioned into the operations and like running that business. And then like you did payroll every 2 weeks and then, and then there were like all these like payroll Fridays and trips and activities, and it was just so fun. And that was sort of the thing that like spark where I was like, oh, like I want to go into business. I want to do more of this. Like the thrill of like someone saying yes, not only to like letting me come and give them a quote, but then like booking the job. It was just so thrilling. So then when I got back to Champaign my sophomore year, I dropped like all of my bio and chem classes. I thought I was going to go and be a doctor, but I'm like, no, business is for me. And so that was sort of like, College Works Painting was like that initial sort of spark where I was like, I want to be a business owner or I want to be like an entrepreneur and kind of like do my own thing. So that little like nugget kind of like stayed in my head throughout like my corporate career. And then when I was coming out of my master's program at UIC, I had another like entrepreneurial sort of experience there with a program called Technology Ventures. And that was the like sort of like catapult to starting my first company.
That was like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Full on, like.
Yeah, like no going back.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more on that company and what you were doing there.
Yeah. So at UIC, the reason I went there for my MBA program was this Technology Ventures program. It was 3 semesters long. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was basically this program where you would look at technologies that were essentially just like sitting on a shelf, whether it's a university or a government lab, and like all this great research is being done, and then they don't know what to do with it. Like they don't know how to commercialize it.
Right.
And that's not their job to
Right.
commercialize it. So, we worked with the tech transfer office at a Department of Energy lab, and we saw this really interesting technology that could predict and like forewarn damage
Okay.
with using like sensors, and the tech was so like above
Over
anything
your
I
head.
ever like could understand. It was literally created by like rocket scientists.
Wow.
And so we got in touch with the DOE and just basically talked to the tech transfer office and said, we're this student team at UIC, like we're really interested in learning more about this technology. Can we speak with the inventors? And so once we talked to the inventors, we said, okay, like we think we could form a business around this and raise some money and actually commercialize this and and bring it to market.
Yeah.
And we were specifically looking at civil infrastructure.
Okay.
So like how could we detect and forewarn damage in like bridges, pipelines, buildings? And so we optioned this technology. It was like maybe $1,000 to kind of like take it and try and run with it. And we built a business around it, right? Like think like business school, like you're pitching, like you're building pitch decks and like all those things. And we participated in the university's business plan competition that winter. We won. So we were like, okay, there's something to this. Like, let's try and raise more money. So there was 3 of us, my team and I, we decided to go on this like circuit of business plan competitions. So we traveled the country the spring semester, like my second year of the program, and literally like went to different universities and pitched this technology, this business, and we raised a little bit of, like we were winning competitions.
That's so cool.
And like you get those big oversized checks, and we thought it was like the coolest thing to like win these checks. And we're actually like, people are interested in this. We have a good business model. Like there's something here. And then the last competition of the year was at Rice University, and it's like the biggest one. And we were down to like over 100, teams apply to this thing, and we got into the top 6.
Wow.
And we were like, oh,
this
is real. This is real. Like they really believe in this. There is something here. And we did the pitch, and then this woman just like came rushing up to us afterwards, and because there were a lot of investors and like angel investors in the room and stuff. And she came running up to us and was like, have you guys heard of this company? We had never heard of them before. So we're like, no. And she said, take a look. And so we go back and just kind of reconvene, the 3 of us. And we're like, oh, uh-oh. Like someone's already doing this.
Oh, no.
And their tech is like much newer. Like our tech was from like the early 90s. Theirs was much newer. It was already commercialized. It was used in like civil infrastructure, like the industry we were, wanting to go into. And so we were like, well, this is a non-starter.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to force something to work if there's something already better out there. So we called the inventors at the DOE lab and just kind of told them like, hey, this is
sorry, bad news.
Bad news. Like we really wanted to make this work. We really did. We intended to graduate and like really put everything into this business and truly commercialize it. And, they were disappointed, but they understood. And, so it's still, I imagine, sitting at the DOE lab. But that was that like, okay, this was so fun, so interesting, so different from what I was doing in the corporate world that I was like, I think I need to like take a risk and try something now on my own, but within food, because that's what I've been building my career in at that time. After graduation, I had that sort of like moment of, I think I need to do something on my own. Like, how do I have this incredible experience, even though it didn't work out the way I wanted, but like, how do you go from that back to just like continuing like this corporate sales job where I wasn't getting, like, don't get me wrong, it was a wonderful company. I loved the experience and the people there, but it was just not fulfilling me the way that like a startup did.
Well, it's so cool to hear that like you just got thrown right into it. Like you weren't in the background doing stuff, and then once you get your shot, they're just like, boom, you're right in the thick of everything, raising capital, you name it.
Yeah.
And so like I think that just makes sense that it drives the itch of like, hey, I want to do this again. So that's pretty cool. So like you said, you started working more in the food industry. What made that kind of be of interest for you, and how'd you kind of get started there?
Yeah. So I started with a global dairy company called Schreiber Foods right out of undergrad. So like I'd said at U of I, like I thought I was going to be pre-med and go to medical school. But then after College Works Painting, I shifted into business. So I was studying like econ and finance, and I thought I wanted to be a commodity trader.
Okay.
So I was applying to like CME and
Yeah.
like Board of Trade and everything here in Chicago. But I had applied to this company in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I never heard of them, didn't know anything about it. But there was this like dairy commodity trading role, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, let me apply. I had a phone interview with them, and this was, senior year of college. And they were like, we need to hire, like, we can't wait 6 months for you to graduate. Like, we're hiring somebody now, but have you ever considered sales?
Okay.
And I was like, well, yeah, like actually had really fun with this College Works Painting thing, sure. So then they flew me to Green Bay, Wisconsin in the middle of a blizzard, literally in January.
Of course.
And so I didn't see anything other than like the airport, the hotel, and the company's office. Yeah, and snow. And so I interviewed for this like inside sales role and, got the offer.
Right.
And it was like the best offer of any of the other jobs I'd like interviewed for. So I took it. And then after graduation, like that June, I moved up there and I was like, oh, this is a really small town. Like I didn't know it's like 100,000 people. But I worked out of their home office for 2 years and then came back to Chicago and did another 8 years with them here.
Okay.
So I loved sales. I loved learning everything about like the dairy world and, working with the retailers with their own brand because Schreiber's a private label dairy company. So, I was calling on the retail side, like Aldi and Target and Trader Joe's and those kinds of guys. And then I spent some time too on food service, managing national accounts. So like the QSRs and fast and family casual chains. So like Wendy's, Arby's, Shake Shack.
Wow.
So it was really, really fun and just like amazing people at that company. Like people talk about Midwest nice. It was very Midwest nice. But again, it wasn't like scratching that itch of like wanting to kind of start and do something on my own. But I think the beauty of working in the industry was like I learned how everything operated. Like I made yeah. And like I always tell, like when I talk to young, like aspiring entrepreneurs, like what's the, people always ask like, what advice can you give? Like my thing is work in the industry that you want to start a company in. Because not only do you like build your network, but you learn how things work and how everything operates. And then you're not coming in like totally blindsided by things.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think some people just kind of jump into it and then don't necessarily see the little things.
Yeah.
That when you have the experience, you're like, oh, I know how to do that or handle people that you're employing and know what they're going through. So I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So once you kind of left Schreiber, what happened there and like what was the next step?
Yeah. So I left in, it's like 2014, 2015, to literally go full time on my first food company. So it was called Paleo Scavenger. And I personally was following this paleo lifestyle at the time.
Okay.
I had injured my calf really bad. I tore my calf muscle.
Ooh.
And yeah, I was training for a half marathon and it was not like the rehab was just like not going well. And so I started to see just like different things on, Instagram had just come out at the time. And I was like seeing all these different like people posting about the paleo diet. And I got curious and I'm like, oh, like it heals inflammation. Like that's what I have going on in my calf right now. Like this is supposed to be really good for you. And everyone who talked about it was basically like, try it for 2 weeks and see how you feel. So I did that because I was like, well, I can't just continue training by like numbing my pain. Like
Mhm.
it's not going to get better. I'll try anything. And so I did paleo for a couple weeks and felt incredible. And my calf healed really quickly. So I got back to training within like a month, ran the half marathon that summer, and was just like, okay, I'm gonna like continue this diet because it works.
Right.
Just like the brain fog lifted and like all the gut issues go away. And it's just
Wow.
like, it was incredible. And I never, I was 28 at the time. Like I never thought about the food I was putting in my body and how it affected everything. And so I was making this grain-free granola snack. And I thought, oh, this could be sort of a vehicle to educate people about paleo and like how good they could feel if they adopted this lifestyle. And so I started bringing that granola to like local farmers markets like Logan Square and Wicker Park and just selling it there. So it was sort of like a cottage operation out of my house at
Right.
first. And then the people that kept coming back every week to buy more would tell me like, why don't you go to this store and see if they'll carry it? Or because they could only get it on Sundays at the
Right.
farmer's market. They wanted it like throughout the
Yeah.
week. So like my customers started telling me like, go to this store, go to this store, go to this store, and even making introductions. And then once I like just walked in with samples and the owner tried it, they're like, yeah, I'll buy a case. And I'm like, oh, okay, I have to like move to a,
Now you gotta produce it.
yeah, to produce it and like move to like a legitimate kitchen. I can't make
Yeah.
it out of my home anymore. So that was, it was just like a like very organic, like the way it was growing, and
Right.
like went to a commercial kitchen. I made it there for a couple years while I was selling it to local retailers. And then like the more I grew distribution, it was like, okay, now I need a contract manufacturer. Like I can't spend 4 days in the kitchen making this product and 1 day out selling or like running the company.
Right.
So yeah, I found contract manufacturers that could make it for me, where I could focus on like selling it and like building up,
Right.
just the distribution and then building out like the D2C website and all of that. So
Wow.
yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you took that to Shark Tank and were able to kind of pitch them and grow a little bit through that as well, right?
So it was a Good Morning America segment.
Okay.
It was called Shark Tank Your Life. So I pitched to Barbara Corcoran. So it was
Okay.
one shark, and it was myself and one other founder. So it was like a so
Like a
before,
mini Shark Tank.
yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing.
Like GMA used to do these like Friday mornings, like kind of gimmicky Shark Tank segments, to just like promote the new episode that night. And so, yeah, like through, I think it was on Facebook, I saw somebody post like producers are looking for a female entrepreneur to pitch a product. And I
Sign
like,
me up.
yeah, like I emailed the producer and they were just like, okay, like, can you send us, a 60-second video, like pitching your product? But it was, the gimmick for that week was you couldn't talk, had to be sound.
Okay.
So it was like you had to use sound in a way to like pitch your product. And I was just like, I don't know what am I gonna do? So literally I just started like calling anybody and everybody in my phone, and like nobody was answering. But I had like Eminem's Lose Yourself going on
Okay.
in my head while I was like thinking of like, what the heck am I gonna do for this pitch? So then I like quickly and these were like the days before like AI, right?
Yep.
This was like 2015. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write like a rap about my granola to the Lose Yourself like music.
Right.
So I did that. I recorded it. I emailed back the producer this recording, and she was like, "This is great. Shorten it to like
That's
30.
awesome.
Yeah, like like cut out the background music. Like we can't use that. Like shorten it a little bit. Talk more about the granola." And so then I rewrote it, re-recorded it, sent it to her, and she's like, "Can you get on a plane this afternoon?"
Oh my
It's like, yes.
Can't say no.
Yeah, it was like this magical like movie like experience. Like I landed at LaGuardia and they had a sign
No
with my
way.
name and like a limo to pick me up and bring me to I stayed like in a hotel across the street from where GMA records in Times
Right.
Square. So I didn't sleep at all that night.
Oh,
like not a
could you?
wink. No, how could you? And like the rap I had written was just like playing over and over and over in my head the whole night.
That's so funny.
And then like you had to be there at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't sleep at all, and it was really cool though, like to go live on TV and like wrap this thing and like
That's so
win this
cool.
trophy from Barbara, and the whole thing was just like, I think I blacked out the whole time. It's
Oh,
like this outer body.
of course.
Like when it was done, they like, you don't get to sit around. Like they put you in a limo, take you back to the airport. And so it's like, 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'm like getting back on a flight to Chicago. And I'm like, did that just happen? Like
Right.
a
Just
whirlwind.
quick trip and
Yeah. But it
uh
was cool because then like the website sales took off like a little
yeah.
bit. But I mean, unfortunately at the time, so this was like January 2015, like I didn't know what I didn't know then. Like I didn't know how to
Right.
capitalize on that,
Right.
So it was like the website sales took off for a little bit, but then I didn't know how to like keep it going
Right.
versus like now I would have planned more, have like a little bit more in place.
And now there's a little bit more like media availability and like knowledge around it. So
Hmm.
that's like, it might be hard to say, but now you know a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna ask a little bit more on like what did pitching back in those college years and
Yeah.
those type of moments, but I kind of want to switch towards after Schreiber and Paleos and all that. You started another company in the
Hmm.
food industry. Um, Tell me more about aquaculture
Yeah.
and kind of what started that and how you transitioned.
Yeah. So I had run Paleo Scavenger for about 6 or 7 years and was approached by a business broker to sell it. And I was kind of at that point like burnt out on it.
Okay.
Like I was a solo founder. I bootstrapped it. Like I did all the things. I never hired anybody. And I was like, yeah, like I think it's time to move on. And so I sold the business to another food company and then was just kind of sitting with this like uncertainty of what's next. And I really didn't know. Like, I didn't know what was going to be next for me. Like, do I start something else? Do I try and go back into like big food?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea for Aqua was like, how do we, if you think about the macro trends, like this was in 2021 when we started it, um, like our world's growing population, right? We
Mm-hmm.
simply don't have enough resources to feed all the people on our planet in the next 30 years. And then you couple that with like the devastation and destruction in our oceans today, just between like traditional fishing practices and climate change. And as a diver, I just was super passionate about our oceans and like what can I do to kind of help protect them and
Right.
how do we like get our fish stocks back to more sustainable levels so we can continue to feed our growing population. So the idea for Aqua was let's kind of solve these macro problems with this alternative seafood
Okay.
that looks like a raw scallop that we can flavor any way we want because it was just tastes like water, like it was very neutral tasting, and position it as an alternative to seafood without compromise.
Okay.
So if you have like an aqua piece of tuna or an aqua scallop, it's as good as or better than the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
So a match taste, texture, just overall mouthfeel, eating experience. So instead of having like, somebody goes to a vegan person goes to a sushi restaurant and it's like you can get a watermelon or tomato like tuna roll,
Right.
or you can have this aqua tuna roll that's like as good as traditional tuna. So that was the goal. And so, at the time, again, this was like early 2021, there were, Beyond and Impossible, and there were startups working on like beef and chicken and pork
Right.
alternatives, but hardly anyone was working on seafood. And so we had this really unique sort of niche we were trying
Right.
to like um, capture. And so I think, it was sort of like right timing in terms of the market, and investors were really interested in the space. I think consumers, not so much. They didn't really
Okay.
understand it yet, or were a little bit scared of like, what is this, sort of lab grown
Yeah, like
food?
how do you kind of make that, and how does it mimic natural seafood? Like,
Right.
I'm sure some of your background in the science field comes into that, but How do you kind of develop that?
Yeah, so we started creating it through a fermentation process that would remind you of like brewing beer.
Okay.
And so, or kombucha,
Okay.
right? And so we were growing this cellulose material. So cellulose is just a pure fiber. It looks like almost like skin-like,
Okay.
or again, like a raw scallop. Like
Yeah.
it's this really translucent, thick, wet material. And we were growing it in like a liquid feedstock. So again, think like brewing beer, right? So we'd have like our water, our sugars, our,
Yeah.
all of our nutrients we kind of add to this brew. And then you essentially add your microbes. We were using bacterias and yeast. And then you just let it sit in a temperature controlled room.
Okay.
Within a couple weeks time, you get this like mat that grows on the surface of the liquid, and then it grows, to the surface, and it gets thicker. And so that thick matte material was our product.
Okay.
And so we would basically harvest it, so simply just removing it from the liquid, kind of wash out all that fermentation media because it's very acidic. And then we'd flavor it with natural flavors to mimic, tuna, scallops, shrimp, cod. Like we played around with so many different species. And it was just this great material because you could manipulate it in so many ways. Like you could manipulate not only the flavor, but like the shape, the texture. Like we figured out how to play with the texture to make it this like buttery soft, tuna, and then like a bouncier, springier like scallop or shrimp. And so it was just really cool material. And I would argue like when it came to alternative seafood, like nobody else was doing it. Even the startups that came after us, like nobody was doing anything like this. So it was very, very unique, just really great concept. And like every chef we brought it to was just like, what is this trickery? Like, are you like, literally we thought there was this Japanese sushi chef we met in New York once, and he thought we were trying to trick him.
No way.
He's like, this is a fluke. And we're like, no, like this is
legit.
This is legit. Like we're making this, like you're not eating real seafood here. Like this is our product.
Right.
So that was really cool. Just like, Japanese sushi chefs that like eat this stuff since they're babies and are like giving us their stamp of approval. It was just like very, very unique.
Now, being a little selfish here, so I'm allergic to some like freshwater fish and some shellfish. Would that be an alternative to avoid those like allergies for
100%.
people?
Yeah. So safe, like allergen safe. Vegans, of course, vegans were a little bit turned off by it because they thought it was too realistic.
Okay.
Like the texture for them was too realistic. But yeah, like people with allergies or anyone looking to kind of make a simple switch, right, to do something a little bit better for the planet. But that was one of the realities of bringing this product to market was, we learned that consumers do not care about sustainability. Like they say they do, but then when it comes down to actually like voting with their dollar, they go with whatever's cheaper, more convenient, whatever. Like the sustainability is a nice to have if it's accessible and affordable.
Right.
So.
So when you guys were kind of finding that out, was it more, were you guys targeting restaurants or grocery stores? Kind of where was the market at there?
Yeah, we went the restaurant route. And the reason we did that was all of our market research up to that point was just driving us in that direction. So we had this hypothesis, right, that like based on the data we found, in the US, about 70% of seafood's consumed away from home, meaning in restaurant. And we did probably 10 hours of interviews, like one-on-one interviews with different consumer types. And then we had about, I would say 100 people come through our office space and sample our products. So we did like multiple evenings of these like taste panels where we had an Eventbrite, right? And like random people could sign up and come into our space and try the product and give us feedback, just like on a survey format. And we learned so much from that. Like we learned who who our consumer is and who they aren't. And so we learned like, not only are people kind of scared by this new and different thing. But overall, they are really confused by the seafood category. And so I think in the US especially, like we consume like chicken and beef. But then in Asia, about 70% of the protein consumed is seafood. So
Right.
that market is just, they just know seafood more than we do here. And so we learned that US consumers are really confused by the category. And if like they go to a store to buy seafood, they don't know what all the labels mean. Like they don't know what farm raised or sustainably caught or, whatever. They have no idea what any of that stuff means. And it's an expensive piece of protein. So they're afraid I'm going to spend a lot of money on this and then I'm not going to know how to cook it properly at home and just kind of ruin that. So with all of that learning, we learned, okay, people typically go out to eat and they trust the restaurant, they trust the chef to prepare the seafood the way that it should be, and they'll have a really great experience. And so just everything we learned in that research and with all those taste panels was, okay, like this is the path to go, was to go to market and food service. And then it was great because every chef we got in front of would just talk about the problems of sourcing seafood and just the price volatility of it. And, you think about a restaurant that's operating on incredibly thin margin to begin with, and they're just beholden to the market, like the seafood market, right? That changes like almost daily.
Right.
And they're not going to print new menus every single night or week to keep up with that. So, we learned like even more about sort of the problems within seafood just from talking to these chefs.
Right. So then, just being in Chicago, like some of the seafood here and coming from the Great Lakes, like there's pollutants and stuff. So you obviously avoid that in some cases.
Yeah. Like you avoid the mercury and microplastics and pesticides. And even within aquaculture, similar to like traditional farming, like you're feeding the fish these antibiotics, right? So that they're not getting sick. So you avoid all of that with an alternative like aquas.
And so when you were going to restaurants, were you mostly staying around Chicago, Midwest, or like New York or globally? Where were you guys kind of targeting?
Yeah.
And where did you find most success there?
That's a good question. The intention was to target Chicago chefs, right? Like we're based here, we were manufacturing here. It's the market we know the best and have introductions to these chefs. And so the intention was let's stay in Chicago and own this market before we start to broaden.
Right.
But we got, I think just, because it was so new and novel, we would get a lot of press and we'd get a lot of people just inquiring and reaching out to us through like our website or email. And so we had pull from like New York and LA and Las Vegas. And it was just like I had a chef in Vegas call my cell phone because somehow I don't know how my number got out there. But he was from the Chicago area. He was Oprah's chef running restaurants in Vegas. And he was like, I saw this thing. I saw you're in Chicago. Like, I want to try it. And so I flew out there with product and met with him. And it was just like, holy cow, like this is great. How do we get this on our menu? So we were kind of being pulled in different directions. And even globally, like Japan was very interested in our product. Korea was very interested in the product. And so it's, when you're a small team and you have really limited manufacturing capability, it's like you have to pick and choose.
Right.
And so, we're like, okay, well, we're here in Chicago. We know we can service Chicago really well. We hadn't yet figured out like a distribution system, right? All the logistics of that. So we stayed here. And we launched with Chef Marcos Campos of Bonhome Hospitality. And he's a Spanish chef from Galicia, Spain. And he was just, again, like coming from Spain and having like the freshest seafood available and then running restaurants in Chicago, he couldn't get that.
Right.
And so he started bringing in our tuna. And it was cool because, we didn't know it. We didn't know what his plans were for it other than he was going to make one dish on the menu with the product. But funny enough, he removed real, like conventional tuna from his menu.
Wow.
And he basically, like, I didn't believe him. He's like, no, like I took it off the menu. He's like, I can't get consistent quality tuna at a consistent price. And like, you're giving me something like locally grown, and it's the same quality, the same price, like week after week. He knows what he's getting. And he just simply couldn't get that. And then learning that was just like, oh, that's our value proposition.
Yeah.
Like, we've never sold to anybody on that, but that is like almost more important than, yeah, we match taste and texture. Like, we can give you a consistent quality at a consistent price every single week and take the volatility out of your supply chain, like take that risk completely out of your seafood supply chain. Which was like this epiphany moment.
Like, wait, scrap everything, redo it. That's really, really cool and interesting. And that just kind of goes into like being a founder. Like, when you're think one way and you just kind of get caught in that mindset, and then someone kind of changes that for you.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because you're in the weeds. Like, you're like, you're building, you're getting your hands dirty. Like, you spend your day in the details. And then when you pick your head up, right, and have these conversations, it's like, oh, this is so much bigger than how I was selling it or how I was talking about it. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think as a founder, no matter how big your business grows, like, you have to be in front of your customers. Like, you have to have those relationships because you just learn from them. Like, you learn so much from them. And I know they appreciate it too. So.
So I kind of want to switch gears a little bit more to the business side now, and kind of growing the business. What are the challenges that come with that, and with each different business that you've been part of, and like, what are some of the difficulties or things that you don't see day to day?
Yeah. It's almost like you don't know what you don't know, like every step of the way, like, right? Like, things are breaking. And I had an executive coach that would tell me, like, every time you double, everything breaks. And it's so true. Like, going from like 2 people to 4 people, everything breaks. Or like 4 people to 8 people. Like, you're continually like figuring out, like, how do we integrate all of this? How do we go from like, there's something in my head to now, like, it has to be shared by all of these people. But yeah, like, processes break, like, product breaks down, like, everything just kind of like falls apart as you grow. And so, not that you can really prepare for it, but kind of, I think if you live through it, it's like a little bit easier every time. But yeah, I mean, the challenges with just like the people, right? Like, hiring and finding like the best people and like giving them a great onboarding experience. And like, every time we brought somebody new in, you learn more about how do we onboard somebody. Like, it's like sink or swim to like, okay, now I'm going to hold your hand for the first week. And like, we're going to do these things together and really like make sure you're fully integrated in this team. So like, I don't know, you can't really prepare for it. You just kind of have to learn through it. And then, I don't know, one of the like saving graces I have is just talking to other founders who are, a step or 2 ahead. And just like, how did you navigate this? Like, what advice can you give me? Like, I don't know what to do here. I'm stuck. Like, what can I do? Like, how did you get through it? And like, just sharing like experiences is just so helpful.
So what was the most helpful thing that they gave you where you were like stuck and they say?
The biggest thing was, and this actually came from one of my investors who had worked at a Chicago startup and was with them from like early days through growth, like big growth. She gave me a book called Traction. So it's EOS, it's the Entrepreneur Operating System. And she handed me this book. She's like, you can read it in a weekend. And like,
perfect.
I highly recommend you implement it. And so, yeah, I read this and I was just like, oh my God, this is what we need. Like, reading this book, I'm like, it calls out all of the kind of like broken things in your business that you're like, oh, this is why it's not working. Like, I need to implement this system. So just things like having an org chart and having accountability and like everyone knowing what everyone else is accountable for. And so people aren't doubling up on work and then like being combative in an all team meeting because why are you doing that? I'm doing that. And like there's something in Traction called an L10, like a level 10 meeting. And so like our all team meetings turned into this, like, and it took us from this like, not dysfunctional, but kind of like disjointed team who think we're going in the same direction, but there's like conflict and not full understanding of like what everyone's doing and how that's moving us forward to like visibility and transparency and accountability. And it just kind of leveled up everybody on the team. And it was just, you could see like week after week, like
Right.
the needle's moving, we're getting things done, like our production's improving, we're bringing on more customer, like it's working.
Yeah.
So that was probably like the best thing that I ever got.
Especially when you can see it happening.
Yeah.
You were probably like, wow.
Uh-huh.
Like just flips the switch and
Mm-hmm.
you can actually see it going in the direction you want.
Yeah.
So that's really incredible, and we'll have to link the book for anyone listening. And it's kind of pertinent to the next question that I have is just investors. Raising capital is not always the easiest thing. Like you've gone through that multiple times. What does raising capital for a company look like?
Ooh, in what sense?
Just from your experience, as you're raising capital for growing your business, what do you have to go to an investor with and kind of pitch them on what you're looking to do?
Yeah. I will say like I think the best gifts we had in building that company was going through this accelerator program called Big Idea Ventures, because they kind of prepare you for kind of like what you need to have ready in order to go out and raise money. I mean, there was a lot of other things in the program, but one of the things was like having a data room, making a pitch deck. Like these are the things that are sort of expected or like standard for a startup to come prepared with before they have an investor conversation, or at least for someone to take you seriously. And so, just like putting together a deck, and like in the early days, they're so ugly. Like you look back and you're
still
so
not great.
no, you're so embarrassed. Like, did I really like bring this? Did I really send this to people? But then I think like, well, if I like, you should be embarrassed by it. That means you've grown. But like our first pitch deck, we're using like clip art, right? And like, again, like AI wasn't around in like 2021 when we were raising our pre-seed round. And so like having the pitch deck and just like having a story in that narrative and like being coached by somebody to say like, okay, like, maybe you're getting too technical over here. Maybe you're spending too much time on the problem. Like, just having that guidance, I think was really helpful to us. And then just knowing like what the heck goes into a data room, right? And when you're really early stage, like you don't have a lot. So it's like incorporation documents and like maybe an operating agreement and, maybe like you don't have historical financials, but like your projections and like, here's the opportunity that, people are buying into. And I will say it's easier to raise money in the early days where you're just selling a vision and a dream versus like later on, you're selling like, look what we've done and what we can do going forward if you give us this capital. And so yeah, raising that first round of financing, just having that help from this accelerator was great. And then they had all the contacts and like investor networks that we could kind of plug into. So they do this demo day at the end of the program and you're live pitching and people are watching, and then you go in these like little, I don't know, networking rooms on Zoom and you continue the conversations, and then one conversation leads you to another and maybe like a couple of introductions, right? And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a small world. Like everybody knows everybody. And so you talk to one person and it's like, hey, I love what you're doing. It's not a fit for our fund, but I want to introduce you to these 3 people, right? And then you just kind of see how those dominoes kind of start to fall. And then what's interesting is when you're raising, one round, you start to meet people for the next round where it's like, oh, you're too small for our fund, or you haven't hit the metrics, but like, let's keep in touch. I want to watch your progress. And then, then you reach out to them, give them updates quarterly. And then when the time comes for the next round, like you've built that relationship.
Right.
And I just think like, you can't time the market. But timing for us in the early days was just so critical. Like everybody, Beyond Meat had gone public in 2019 and was just going gangbusters. And Seaspiracy had come out like within, I don't know, 3 months of us kicking off our fundraise. So people were in tune to what's happening in the oceans. And it was just like everything was kind of working in our favor. And then, you fast forward a few years and you're raising like another round. And then it's just like everything's working against you. Like so many headwinds with alternative protein, right? The publicly traded comp Beyond Meat is now suffering. All the things are working against you. And you're like, but I have a great business. Look at all the great stuff we've done. Look at the traction. Look at the customer response. Like, look at all this stuff. And, sometimes it's just like the market is telling you something and you can't,
right. It's all
you can't beat
kind
it.
of timing and what goes into it, what investors are at in a mental capacity and what they're looking for. It's really hard to time.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned having a coach and surrounding yourself with a team, I think is important. Having advisors, especially in our side of the business, as we're trying to help a founder assemble that team. Can you talk about a little bit on the team that you had to assemble and maybe how they helped you on the exit side and the founding side?
Yeah. The team in terms of like the company employees or the investors?
More like your outside team of professionals where you have blind spots where you're like, that's not my expertise.
Yeah.
But I want a business coach who looks at everything bird's eye view and says, you should do that.
Yeah. I will say no one ever tells you should. Like, you should do this, you should do that. Like, I always like, don't shit on me. Like, I'm not going to shit on you. Like, don't shit on me. But share your experience and tell me like maybe why you went this direction or that direction and learn from that. But yeah, like I had an amazing business coach who it was almost like business therapy every week. Like you get on a call and it's like, all right.
Let it all out.
Yeah, download like all the stuff that went on and like what you need help with. And it's more of like, I feel like they know how to ask questions to kind of get you to stop and think. And then like right through like the questioning, you kind of like figure out, okay, here's what I want to do. But I had a great executive coach and wonderful advisors. Like we had incredible advisors who had, like the CEO of Louis Dreyfus Company and former executives at like Mondelez and even Beyond Meat. And like any problem I had, it's like, okay, well, who can I go to talk about this? Like who's navigated this before? And just having that dialogue with them. Again, it's not like, hey, you guys have to go do this. It's like, well, here's what worked for us. We made these decisions. Here's why. And a lot of it's trial and error. And like even the investors that we had on our cap table, right? Like you'd send out quarterly updates or they'd want to get on a call with you once a quarter. And like, you just say like, here's what's going on. Like, here's the wins, like this is great, but here's the challenges and like here's what I'm trying to figure out right now. And maybe they can't offer advice or wisdom, but maybe another founder of their portfolio navigated that and then they connect you with them and then you can talk about that with somebody who's been through it. So I think a lot of times like people are afraid to look foolish or like they don't know everything. But it's, in my opinion, like if you're not using your network and not leaning on the people that believe in you and want to see you succeed and have skin in the game, right? Like their own money in the game, to see you succeed. Like if you're not taking advantage of that, it's just being foolish.
Right. So I want to go more towards what you're doing now. So you've transitioned out of aquaculture, and you've started your own consulting business. How has building that network and experience that you've had in multiple companies helped you in consulting now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, well, the consulting thing happened very organically.
Right.
I was like, oh, I'm going to go back and work in big food again and like have a corporate job again. That didn't happen. I think what's interesting is that, and I've talked to a lot of founders about this, you don't realize that being a founder and building multiple businesses, how it kind of, how do I say this? You kind of place yourself out of the job market. Like you're this mysterious unicorn like person. Like we don't really know like who you are or what you can do. Like, it's not like, oh, I've worked in sales for 25 years or operations for 25 years and this is all I do. Like you're this like mysterious person who's done all these things. And so it's like recruiters don't really know what to do with you. Like they can't put you in a box.
Right.
And so they don't know how to like position you internally. And then I feel like if you get through that stage and you talk to like the hiring manager, then they're like, oh, like you can do my job. Right. And then they're kind of scared of you. So it's just been like, it was a really interesting experience and journey, like trying to like go back into corporate. And it's like, oh, like I have placed myself out of the market.
And
like,
even like personally, you're kind of like, I can do your job.
Yeah.
Almost.
I don't want to, but but yeah, that was just like a very interesting learning experience. And like, thank God for like the founder community in Chicago,
Right.
like people I can talk to and just be real with. And it's like, oh, okay, you've been through that. Like, and then, it took a couple of those kind of founder friends and people just being like, you have this amazing startup experience that very few people have. Why are you trying to get a job?
Right.
Like, why aren't you using that experience to help other founders like navigate this? Like no one, like sort of that like 0 to 1, area that I play in, like not many people have that. And so I just started getting introductions from just people in my network, from not only like Aqua Days, but even earlier than that. And, just people reaching out saying like, hey, like I heard about you from so-and-so, like I'm going through this right now. Like, can we get on a call? And all of it was just kind of very organic. And then I thought, okay, well, like there's something here. Like and even on LinkedIn, like I started to post about like my journey, right, with startups and what I'd been through. And it seemed like every other day there was like a new founder and like the DMs, like, hey, I'm trying to do this right now. Like, can we get on a call? And I'm like, there's something like here that I think I can charge for. Like, I don't need to just like get on all
free anymore.
Like, can I pick your brain? Like, and then you spend an hour like giving somebody all this great like wisdom. And I'm like, I think I can charge for this. So that's kind of what it turned into. It was just like, oh, like there's like some real good like knowledge up in this brain that I can like actually like charge people for. And then it was cool because like one company that I'm working with, they have this incredible patent for a device and they don't know what to do with it. Like it took them 10 years to get a patent.
Wow.
And the two inventors both have full-time jobs and they're just like, we have this thing, we pay money to keep the patents alive, we don't know what to do with it. And I was just like, I've never worked on like a consumer appliance or kitchen appliance, but like, well, let me see what I can do. And so I just started tinkering with AI tools and had so much fun. Like I took paper drawings from, a patent and created like 3D renderings. I created a website with it and like all these licensing materials. And I started coding agents in Claude Code to do like research for me and like draft outreach and like, things that would have taken me probably 6 months, I did in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And was just like, oh, this stuff is so powerful. Like I need to get better at this and start implementing it. And so now I'm like doing all the things with AI and using that in this consulting business to make, and I tell my clients like, I built this for you in Claude, like, what else can I do? Like building out data rooms and decks and doing outreach. Like I can do it all for you at a fraction of the cost by using these amazing tools and like, let me show you how.
So when you're using AI, like that's the new buzzword. Like everyone, how do we use AI?
Yeah.
And how do you learn it? Do you just kind of sit and play around with it?
Yeah.
Or do you watch videos? how do you learn AI better and get better with it?
Yeah, all the above. I started learning just by doing and tinkering and like literally like playing with all these tools and like what can I get for free? What do I have to pay for? What gives the best result? Like it's time consuming and it's frustrating. Like I built a website on Manus and I was just like wanted to pull my hair out. I said, screw it. We're starting from scratch with Claude. But like you have to have patience, but you just have to be willing to play around and test and know that it's like not going to be perfect. And the way I think about it now is like, how can I break it? Like, how can I like build something and then like break it? And then, yeah, I started following different people on Instagram and LinkedIn and just people that were talking about AI and how they're using it. And then signing up for different webinars and just like, again, just like the curiosity of it and like wanting to learn and do something new just kind of keeps you going. But yeah, so it's like a combination of following like top voices in AI and learning like how they're thinking about it and even learning like how these tools actually work, which is super interesting. And then just playing around with it. And then like I'm taking courses, like Claude courses, and they're free.
Yeah.
And like anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's just making the time. But I think like, I don't know, people who are like time rich right now are going to be more time rich by implementing AI.
For sure.
And it just opens up just all the doors for.
And it's such a fast-paced environment. Like it seems like every 2 weeks there's something new. Like Claude a year ago, like nobody knew what it was, and now everyone's using it.
Yeah.
It's such a fast-paced environment. So I think, like you said, just doing it all and trying different things is great. One last question. If there's any founders listening, any business owners, what is one piece of advice you would give them?
Ooh. It's like such a big question.
Pretty loaded.
Yeah. One piece of advice. Maybe stay curious. You know, like ask questions. Don't be shy or feel foolish to not know everything. And I think with that curiosity comes some like not only humility, but then people respect you more, right? Of just like asking questions like, hey, I don't know what I don't know. Like, tell me more. Like you get smarter and you build relationships and trust with that. So I would just say stay curious.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for coming. Brittany, it's been great to host and great to learn a little bit more about your story. I'm sure we could talk for hours on a lot of these topics, but I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.